there's no big deal in knowing where container ships are. And in fact, as I said, AIS is easy to spoof or just turn off, and there's limited, it's line of sight thing. We actually monitor where our fleet is on a daily basis by something called Fleet View, which is a computer satellite-driven system. Same thing. We can call up a website and I can see exactly where my ship is anytime I want to know. Course and speed made good over the last 30 days if I want to know that much. What the weather's like, all sorts of information about the ship in real time. And we actually gave that information to 5th Fleet out in Bahrain for the ships that are working out in that area, so they don't have to use AIS if they don't want to. So we have no issues with that. On some other types of ships, tramp ships that operate in the spot market, where they are does tend to present some competitive information, both against our competitors and our customers. Sometimes it's better for us in a tramp market that our customers not know exactly where we are. But at least for me, I'm pretty comfortable that the Navy is not going to be giving that information out, and as long as we're comfortable that the information we provide the Navy stays with the Navy and is used for Navy purposes, I personally don't have any problem doing it. So, yes, sir.
So building on that question, really, I mean,
information sharing in terms of the maritime domain awareness has been a challenge. But I think what your presentation has highlighted to me is actually how serious the cyber threat is to your business, which is, of course, a threat that the merchant marine are vulnerable to as much as the military. And I just wonder if, in terms of maritime domain awareness, if you're aware of any initiative by the IMO or any other international body to start considering this common threat and increasing the awareness.
The Coast Guard in the United States does host a maritime cyber threat group, which we belong to. We were one of the founding members of that with Coast Guard. So there is, in the United States at least, a very active cyber domain group that looks at those sorts of issues, and the Coast Guard hosts it. I don't remember exactly who it is, but a member of my staff is our primary point of contact on that, attends all kinds of meetings, and we do a lot of exercises with them, cyber exercises and things like that. Very active group, and I'd be happy to send you the information when I get back to the office if you're interested. Anything else?
Hey, Steve, one last question here.
Softball, Grady. It's my neighbor, so if he says anything nasty.
Thanks for coming out today. Any insights on, the Navy, we build big ships, you guys build big ships. Any insights on, from the commercial standpoint, on shipbuilding?
Yeah, don't do it here. That's probably one of the easiest. In the United States, actually, there are segments of the United States shipbuilding industry that are quite competitive. They build very good stuff. They build a lot of it, the small tug and barge kind of thing. In the U.S., that segment of the shipbuilding industry is actually quite good. It's the big ship stuff, and sometimes I'm perplexed myself. Why? We don't build ships here because we are ineligible to participate in what's called the Jones Act or the cabotage trade. We are by far the largest shipping company in the country, and we're not allowed, and we can carry, and do, I think our share of carrying military cargo out to Iraq and Afghanistan exceeds 50%, so we can carry all kinds of bombs and missiles to Afghanistan, but we can't carry sneakers from here to Philadelphia, because that's against the law. So we're not allowed to do coastwise work, and the only reason you would want a ship built in the United States is to do coastwise work, so we don't build anything here. But we have an eye on what happens. Of course, our business builds a lot of ships, mostly in Korea and China now. And I never understood why NASSCO builds a tanker that costs 3 times what it's same design. NASSCO builds a Korean design ship that Koreans have built 100 times in the past, and it costs NASSCO 2.5 or 3 times what it does the Koreans. And so, unlike when you talk about Navy ships, they'll say, "Well, they're vastly complex things, and we got this and that and the other thing." Tankers on the other hand are mostly empty space surrounded by steel plates. Not too much to them, and we're grossly uncompetitive there too. And it isn't wages. I heard the president of NASCO give a talk, it was about a year ago now, that he reported that American shipyard workers were the 4th highest paid in the world. Koreans, Japanese, and Germans all make more money than American shipyard workers do. So it isn't wages. It's productivity and things like that. And even the complexity thing is a little bit hard to understand. I know Navy ships are very complicated pieces of machinery. On the other hand, so are cruise ships. You know, cruise ships are enormously complicated, and I would submit every bit, if not more so, than Navy ships. And cruise ship companies build those things, and those are still largely built in Europe. Build those things, and they're so expensive. I mean, we're talking hours from the time they launch to the time you know, they're loading passengers. So, and where I've seen it done, when they're putting their modules together, they're outfitted with furniture in the modules when they're welding those blocks together. So it's extremely well done for very complicated ships, and I don't know why we can't do it here. And I can tell you from, you know, when we take delivery, we just took delivery of a couple ships from China not long ago. And the way it works is we take delivery of the ship, we do sea trials, we drop the sea trial crew off, and they're in service right then and there, not alongside a dock for 2 years to fix what was wrong when we built them. We steam around for 5 years underway working. Every 5 years we stop for 2 weeks to do maintenance, and then we're underway for 5 years more, and we steam them like that for 20 years and then scrap them. And that's another difference. You know, we build ships the last 20 years. Our philosophy is generally there's a limit at how long you can anticipate technological changes, and therefore building ships that'll last 50 years is just not something we think is practical.
Steve, we have one last question from the DCO audience.
Okay.
Sir, the question is, do you see any major innovations in maritime propulsion in the near future?
I think right now the big one is shifting to natural gas, which is happening. And that's largely driven by, first, natural gas is substantially cheaper in the United States. Natural gas, which is probably the cheapest natural gas market in the world, natural gas is running somewhere between $2 and $3 per million BTU, where the oil equivalent is somewhere in the $10 per million BTU range. So natural gas is very cheap, but more importantly, excuse me, the issue is emissions. Natural gas is just so much cleaner that when the 0.1% sulfur restrictions and things like that kick in, it's just going to be impractical. We're not even sure we'd be able to buy the fuel even if we could afford it to meet the emissions restrictions that we see coming down the road. And so natural gas will be, at least in the intermediate, the big one as we shift to natural gas bunkers. That means you need a natural gas bunkering infrastructure in place, which is, and again, we're deeply involved in developing that. From a security perspective, what you guys see roaming around in the harbor, these decks awash kind of bunker barges, 3 or 4 years from now, you're not going to be able to tell what's in them. If it's going to be black oil that you couldn't blow up if you wanted to natural gas, which is still very safe. Natural gas does not explode, contrary to what a lot of people think, at least liquid natural gas, LNG. But you're not going to know what's in those. And so you're going to see a big uptick in natural gas floating around in your harbors, natural gas facilities in the harbors and things like that. And then lastly, for existing construction, and there's a variety of ship types that are looking at this now. When you're import, we take a lot of bad press for stack emissions when we're in port. So, places like LA require you to cold iron or do something like that. Cold ironing is not something we do. A lot of our ships are not designed to do it. We just can't. We have to backfit them. So we have one generator designed to run on natural gas when we're in port. Or in some cases, we do outfit the ships to take shore power, but we don't buy electrons from the Port Authority because it's expensive. So we have a natural gas barge that's got a generator on it. We generate our own electrons off a natural gas-driven barge when we're in port, and that's an active project. That's not a fantasy. So I think that in the near term, in the next 10 years, is probably the biggest revolution. Is that we're going to stop burning oil.
All right.